Calisthenics has been rising in popularity as of recently, with social media being the front runner of bringing widespread accessibility, demonstrating all of the wonderful ways on how to train calisthenics, showing off cool looking moves like the planche, front lever, muscle up, and more. It's relatively easy to get into and can be trained anywhere in the world. And with that, more and more people are naturally gravitating towards it. Being able to manipulate and control your body weight is a huge flex. That's one of the primary reasons I chose to train it. I believe calisthenics expresses true strength, technique, patience, and consistency. The art of calisthenics is undeniably beautiful, and it grabs attention from everybody in a public setting. However, it also comes with harsh realities that many people just don't talk about. Here's harsh reality number 1, genetics. Genetics play a major role when training calisthenics. Generally speaking, shorter, lighter people are able to demonstrate impressive feats of strength and skill when it comes to calisthenics. Hence why most gymnasts you see are pretty short and light. The taller and heavier you are, the more difficulties you will have training calisthenics. And let's say you're like me. I stand at 5'11", but I have pretty long limbs. My arms are at 75.5 inches long in arm reach. And so my arm length, as you can see, is outside of the camera frame, is roughly of a person that is 6'3". So that does put me at somewhat of a disadvantage when training calisthenics. If you have naturally bigger legs, you're gonna have a disadvantage. Most of the real strong athletes in calisthenics you see on social media have lighter bodies, shorter limbs, and oftentimes don't have big legs. And that's not to take anything from their hard work and success, as it's still super impressive to see them demonstrate amazing feats of strength and skills. But the harsh reality is, if you're taller, heavier, have longer limbs, you will have a harder time progressing in calisthenics versus your counterparts. That's just the harsh truth. Fancy moves like planche, front lever, back lever are leverage-based positions, meaning hand placement is everything. Going from a tuck planche to a full planche is a gargantuan change in overall strength output. It becomes significantly harder and tougher on your joints as you go from a tuck to a straight body position. The center of mass of your body is going to shift further and further away from the shoulder the more you straighten the body. This right here increases torque primarily on the front delts. And in physics, torque equals force times distance. So shifting the distance of the center of mass from the shoulders will inevitably increase torque. If you're taller or have long arms in general, naturally you're going to have more impending torque on the shoulders, which then requires more strength in order to apply the necessary force to be able to full planche. Hence the big reason why I'm not able to full planche yet. Me personally, I'm at a slight disadvantage when it comes to leverage-based positions. But you know, that's still not gonna stop me. It's no excuses this way. Just have to train hard, smart, and never give up. Don't let your genetic makeup be the reason why you don't train calisthenics. You just have to approach it differently. The second harsh reality is the need to be creative. Training calisthenics requires a certain level of creativity and intelligence to become successful in it. This helps reduce the chances of you incurring an injury while you work to improve your strength and skill set. Not to say by any means if you lift weights, you don't need creativity or intelligence, because weightlifting alone has its own requirements. However, when you train calisthenics and you want to progress effectively, you have to approach it methodically. If you train at home and you have limited access to equipment, you're gonna have to be creative. You wanna do pulling exercises, but have no access to a pull-up bar or a set of dip bars? Do bodyweight rows using a pair of chairs. You could do bodyweight curls using objects around the house, like this, or even a table. Creativity is needed in order to progress effectively in calisthenics. And that's just the harsh truth. Don't expect to make progress just training your muscles with a little bit of thought when it comes to training calisthenics. Some of your more high-calorie burning days will consist of you not just training, but also thinking a lot, but just don't overthink it. The third harsh reality I want to talk about is overtraining in calisthenics. Overtraining is common amongst all athletes and fitness enthusiasts. Absolutely no one is safeguarded from overtraining. You just have to be smart. The frequency of it, I would argue, is higher in calisthenics, primarily because we're not just training our muscles, but also our tendons and our ligaments. And we emphasize on lockouts to really demonstrate strength, control, and technique. This right here can tax the joint over time. When you work on straight arm position moves like planche, front lever, handstands, and more, that requires more stress on the connective tissue in our joints. Joints don't get an extensive supply of blood and nutrients compared to muscles. Joints are lined with a thin tissue layer called articular cartilage, which permits smooth movement between the joints. This cartilage is considered avascular, which means it doesn't get a direct blood supply. So it receives nutrients through a process called diffusion from surrounding synovial fluid, which is the main reason why it heals slower compared to other tissues in the body. So if you had a pretty intense planche training and after 1 day of rest, you pick up your planche training for day 2, don't be surprised if you're weaker. Joints take a longer time to heal. And if you keep training at this intensity without getting proper rest or nutrition, then overtraining is inevitable. And this will delay your progress and possibly injure you. So that's something you guys should be aware of when training calisthenics. Training skills and pursuing strength without getting injured is a bit difficult to come by. And unfortunately, it's a reality that can be harsh if not approached safely and effectively. The last harsh reality I have for you guys is something that I really have a personal connection with, and that's the feeling of not making progress. Really just putting a timeline on things. You know, unfortunately guys, when training calisthenics, we go on the internet and we search up how long does it take to get the planche, front lever, muscle up, and then we apply that timeline to ourselves. And that's something we shouldn't do because everyone is different. Like I said earlier in the video, genetics play a major role in your journey of calisthenics. So when you're talking to your homies or people you know at the gym or in your neighborhood and they say, hey, I got the full planche in a year, it might not take you a year. It might take you a year and a half, 2 years, or you can possibly get it sooner than that. But the point is, don't fall victim to the timeline. That's something myself have become a victim of. I told myself, hey, I'm gonna get the full planche in probably a year and a half. Still don't have the full planche after 3+ years of training calisthenics. Granted, was it consistent planche training all these years? No, I have taken time off training the planche. But as of recently, the last year and some change, I've been working to get the full planche. I'm not gonna quit, but I just come to realize that I'm not so caught up in the timeline when I should have the full planche. Not getting so caught up in, hey, I should be like this guy on Instagram or YouTube. No, I'm taking 1 day at a time and enjoying the process. And that's my big recommendation to you guys. Don't become a victim of you not making progress. There are gonna be days where you're not making progress like that. Trust me, I've been through it. There are gonna be days where you feel like, hey, I can do more. The days where you feel like you can do more, don't go as hard still, because that can really lead to overtraining. It's all about approaching it methodically and safely, so that way you can continue to make strength and skill gains without incurring an injury. Oftentimes, that's why people quit the planche. Hey, I wasn't able to get the full planche like my friend was, so maybe he just has better genetics than me. And that's not necessarily the case. Everyone is built different. It's not a matter of who has better genetics when it comes to training calisthenics. It's just a matter of training safely and effectively. Granted, if you're like 6'4+, you're gonna have a tough time training calisthenics. I'm not gonna lie to you, you will. And there's some things that you really gonna have to be persistent about. But the moment you give up is the moment you don't win. It's that time when we quit, when we don't accomplish the goal. So don't give up on yourself, guys. But that's the harsh reality behind calisthenics. Those are 4 things that are very crucial in my opinion that you should be made aware of. Don't let these 4 things deter you from training calisthenics. Just make sure you always approach your training safely, effectively, and even journal your things. I always advocate for that. Recording your training logs is gonna help you tremendously. With that, guys, if you enjoyed today's video, make sure you smash that like button. Most importantly, make sure you are properly subscribed. I'll see you guys next video. Peace and love as always, and nah, shade. Boom, we out, baby.